Speak on the Show, episode 26. Saturday morning, y'all, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. Y'all ready? Let's go. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Speak On It. I am your boy, R.W. Coolest, coming to you live and direct. First and foremost, giving out to the guy who allows me to come at you in this manner on a weekly basis, trying to adjust some things, y'all. How's everybody doing this morning? 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. That's what we do here every Saturday morning here on Speak On It Show. My lighting's a little off today, so y'all bear with me. I'm trying to get everything right in here. So let's go ahead and get these formalities out of the way. rwcoolers.com, that's the website. rwcoolers over all social media platforms. You can go there, follow, share, like, do what you do with all the other shows you may watch. You know, I can't hear it correctly. I don't know what's going on here. Hold on once. All right, there we go. Over all social media platforms. We're also broadcasting live on YouTube and Facebook this morning. You can download the audio after the show on Spreaker.com, or you can download on Apple iTunes under Speak On It Show. If you go there, search Speak On It Show, it will pop up for you. James Battle, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate your support. 844-904-2665. That's 844-904-2665. No matter what the situation is, let your voice be heard. All we ask is say what you mean what you say. Say what you mean what you say. We come in as friends, we leave as family. That's what we do here on the Speak On This Show. I appreciate everybody tuning in every week. I'm trying to adjust some things. Y'all bear with me for a minute. It's been a minute. Last week I was off, so I'm trying to make sure everything is right. There we go. I think I feel a little bit better now. All right. So as I was saying, say what you mean what you say. And all we ask is when you call in, say what you mean when you say. No comment is a dumb comment per se. No question is a dumb question. That's what we do here on the Speak On the Show every Saturday morning, because that's what we do here, and that's what we're going to continue to do. All right. 10-year anniversary show, September 24th. OT will be hosting. I'll be getting that information out next week. I'll be posting on my page and everything. Anybody wants to call in, Zoom in, whatever you want to do. If you want to make a comment about the show next week, we're just going to have some fun with it after the 10-year point. Talk about old shows, talk about new shows, upcoming things, and talk about the impact that we're having as we do this show. So that's what we're going to do on the 10-year anniversary. Also, I'm pretty sure OT got some things up his sleeve that he's going to try to slide in there. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to pay attention, just have some fun with it. Just have some fun with it and celebrate. So be a part of the celebration, and feel free to call in, do what you do, and we'll take it from there. So let's go ahead. It's an unscripted Saturday, y'all. Unscripted Saturday. First, let me say this. I hope everybody's Labor Day weekend was good. Hopefully your Labor Day weekend was good. You enjoyed yourself. You had a good time. And everybody returned safely from the weekend, doing what you did. If you're out barbecuing or whatever you may have been doing. As long as you return safely, that's what it's all about. So this week in the news, we're going to start off with some bitter news, or some sorrowful news. Queen Elizabeth II passed away, 96 years old. 96 years old. I heard somebody say the other way, gone too soon. Gone too soon. She was 96. Gone too soon. She lived a good life, from what we know, from what we see, from the visuals and everything, from what we hear from family and friends and everything. They'll have the funeral, the eulogy, and all that kind of stuff, where we'll get more information probably when they have the ceremony. We're talking about probably in the next week or so. But, to hear somebody say gone too soon, it threw me back a little bit. And I'm not saying that 96 is not, it's a time when someone should leave here, but they say gone too soon is a little, let's move on from that. There's a lot of controversy though around Queen Elizabeth. A lot of people wasn't fans of Queen Elizabeth. I've seen different articles and everything. I have my opinions. You know, she ruled for 70 years. Her reign was for 70 years. And a lot of people have this thing about Queen Elizabeth of the monarchy, as they call it over there, as far as you know, the way they treated people. Racism is still going on. They reverted back to the Meghan Markle and what went on with her and everything like that. And I'm not going to get into all that. You draw your own conclusion. I don't know that woman, but Queen Elizabeth, I had the pleasure of visiting Buckingham Palace and walking through and taking the tour and looking at things around there. And it still looks like it did probably when she was 26 years old. Let's just be honest. Still looks the same. They still keep the same decor in there and everything, but 96 years old, Queen Elizabeth passed. Now you have King Charles III. He's in charge. He's the king of England, King Charles III. And, you know, he's a little old himself, but we're not going to go by age. We got old presidents here and everything like that. But then they named William Prince of Wales, which was the position that King Charles had when he was Prince of Wales, Charles. So we'll keep an eye on that. You know, I don't get all into the specifics of what's going on over there. They got their royalty, the monarchy, whatever they do. But, you know, the world reached out and was in astonishment or amazed at the fact that she passed away, or in sorrow that she passed away at 96 years old. But, you know, I don't, like I said, I don't know her and everything. Hopefully she enjoyed her life and had a good life and everything. Had a good run, as they say. Billy Easter, good morning, my brother. Appreciate the support. Had a good run, as they say, but you know, it is what it is. As far as that, you know, like I always say on here, and I will continue to say, we all gonna leave here eventually. We don't know the day or the hour. When God decides to call us home, we got to go. We going home. You can't say, hold on, I got something else. Take it. We going home. So make sure you're at peace with everything that you have going on in your life on a daily. Because as I say, we don't know the day or the hour. Lynn Sewell, good morning, my brother. Good morning, my brother. Appreciate the support. So let's move on to something else, because there was someone else that passed away. It was overlooked. Now, there was two people. Comedian David Arnold, you know, he passed away this week. They say natural causes, don't know the ins and outs of that. You know, David Arnold, he wasn't up and coming comedian. He was just starting to get his shine as being out front. He was a show writer behind the scenes, writing for different shows, Full House, different things like that. So he had a resume, but a lot of people only started recognizing him because he has his Netflix stand-ups and things like that. But he passed away tragically, natural causes, they say, this week as well. Same day, I think, as Queen Elizabeth. If not, it was the day before, something in there. So it kind of got overshadowed. But the one I want to concentrate on is not Queen Elizabeth, because, like I said, I don't know her. I grew up knowing about a queen, but that was about it. David Arnold, comedian, rest in peace to him and his family. I seen him on Instagram with his family interacting and everything. I know OT, me and him talked, because OT has interviewed him a couple times, and they were supposed to meet up. They recently talked and everything. So he was a little torn about that. Hope you're feeling better, OT. But what I want to talk about is somebody who impacted me by just the visuals and what I've seen on a consistent basis. And that's Bernard Shaw. Bernard Shaw, 82 years old, passed away this week. Bernard Shaw, for y'all that don't know, he was the first chief news anchor for CNN when it first launched back in June of 1980. He retired from CNN in February of 2001. He was in there over 20 years. Over 20 years, Bernard Shaw. And the reason I bring up Bernard Shaw, being what I do now, not knowing that this is what I would do at the time when I used to watch him all the time, Bernard Shaw on CNN. Brother Terrence, good morning, bro. Appreciate the support. But Bernard Shaw was one of those guys that I realize now, when I used to watch him, I watched him intently because he was something that we very rarely seen in front of the screen, reporting on the national news or anything like that. And he did it in the way that it was supposed to be done. Not the way it's done now, not the way I do it, or anything like the way it was done back with the Walter Cronkites. And there's a story about when he was in the Marine Corps, because, you know, Bernard Shaw served in the Marine Corps for 4 years. But while he was stationed in Hawaii, he sought out Walter Cronkite for advice about how to become a journalist. He sought out Walter Cronkite about how to be a journalist, which tells you exactly why he was the way he was. For y'all that don't know Bernard Shaw, pull up some of his old videos and watch them. Watch him. I'm sure they're on YouTube. Watch how he presented the news. Watch how he reported the news. Watch how he reported when he was over in Baghdad. during the first Gulf War, and all those different places, even Tiananmen Square, all those different things. Watch the eloquence and the mature way he handled himself in those situations to report the news, not innuendos, not adding things on the news, as we say. One other thing that jumped out at me that I did not know, his career started as a radio reporter in Chicago. He interviewed the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. told him, one day you'll make it. Just do some good. One day you'll make it. Just do some good. Now I'm gonna give a shout out to Bernard Shaw, because with the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. telling him that he can make it, just do some good. In my opinion, Bernard Shaw, you did good. You did good. We need to recognize these people. You know, we always put these athletes, and I'm gonna get into sports in a minute. You get all these athletes and everything we put up on these pedestals and everything, but the people like Bernard Shaw, who do the work to give us the information that sometimes we overlook, to me, those are the people that need to be recognized and acknowledged at the time when they leave here. Not giving them the flowers after the fact, but giving them the flowers all the time. Maurice Wigfall, good morning, bro. Good morning. God bless. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you. Big Al, appreciate you, bro. Happy anniversary to you and your wife, man. Happy anniversary again. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you, bro. Bernard Shaw. There was another one, and it made me think about this one as well. Bernard Shaw. After thinking about Bernard Shaw, one of my other people that I used to watch so intently was Ed Bradley. Ed Bradley, when he was on 60 Minutes and CBS News. Ed Bradley and Bernard Shaw were two of the people that I truly admired when I watched the news, or if they were reporting on something I made it a point to watch. And a lot of people say, oh, you just looked at them because they were black. No. Let's just be clear now. I watched them because they reported the news. They reported the facts. Also, it was a visual for me to see people that looked like me in that atmosphere reporting the news. So Ed Bradley is another one. He passed away back in when did Ed Bradley pass away? 2006. He was 65 years old. He passed away. He had leukemia, I think, or something to that extent. But those two were like pillars for me to watch and everything like that. So anybody who doesn't know them, Bernard Shaw or Ed Bradley, go back and watch some of their reporting. Watch how they did it. Watch how they did it so smoothly, so concisely, so truthfully. And you'll get a better understanding of why I personally looked up to those two in the times that they were reporting. So Bernard Shaw, rest in peace, my brother. Thank you. Thank you for doing what you did when you did what you did. And the fact that you did it, with grace, poise, and with the truth. Let's just be real with the truth. Let's go into sports. U.S. Open. I'm pretty sure everybody's been watching U.S. Open simply because Serena Williams, this was her last stand. Allegedly, Serena Williams is done. She says this is her last tournament. She's going to retire from tennis. They had big articles and everything like that. But it's amazing to me to see Serena walk away now with all the fanfare and all the, the people writing these articles about how great she was. She's the GOAT, how she changed tennis and all this. But I want everybody to think back when they first started, when they had the beads in their hair and the criticisms and all this kind of stuff, the two girls from Compton and everything like that. And think about the criticism of when they first came in to the pedestal that they put them on now. Now, mind you, everybody don't have them on their pedestal, her and her sister Venus, as far as how great they are at the game that they play. There's a lot of jealousy, envy, and everything because they came in like Tiger Woods did and basically took over a sport that we were not invited to participate in at one time. Serena did her thing, she's a mother now. She's getting older, can't continue to do the same thing. Father Time is undefeated, as we say, but she had a great run, and she will be looked at as one of the GOATs, or as the GOAT of tennis, as we like to put that GOAT title on people, greatest of all time. But when you talk about tennis, women's tennis, she changed the game. She changed the game, her and her sister, but Serena to another level with the championships and everything like that. But they changed the game of tennis for young Black girls in the, as they say, the hoods, the impoverished communities, to have a goal, to have something to look forward to something to strive for, to become better than they are. And it's not always through tennis. It's not always through sports. It's the fact of seeing somebody able to do it and giving you the motivation that you can go out and do it. So Serena, I salute you. Appreciate what you've done, and hopefully, you can get into some coaching or something like that to bring up these other young girls. May not be as good as you, may not be as great as you, but give them the tools to be able to accomplish, even if it's not even just the tennis alone, even if it's just a conversation to let them know they're worthy to be in those spaces. Sometimes we lose focus of that. But as she walks out, as she fades out of the picture, we have the other young ones coming in. You got Coco Golf. And a lot of people's upset with her because of her antics, as they say, her bravado or whatever you want to call it, while she was playing. She ended up losing, I think, right before the semis. But she played well. So she's up and coming. She's been in the mix for a while. Naomi Osaka is still there. She's had her mental health issues going on here and there and everything, but she's still a force in tennis. Also, you watched last night, watched Francis Tiafoe, I think is his name. The brother from Maryland. Let's just be real. The brother from Maryland. I'm gonna break it down simple. The brother from Maryland did his thing. Now he lost in the semifinals, go to the finals. But hey, furthest he's ever made it, he's on the rise. Keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on him. He's gonna do his thing in the tennis. And the thing about it is, watching him yesterday, he is just starting to scratch the surface of what he can be in this tennis game. A lot of people don't watch tennis. I watch it. One of my brother Terrence, shout out TC, used to play. I never really appreciated it when he played it because I was like, why are you playing tennis? How come you ain't playing baseball, basketball, football, the normal things? But my older brother Terrence, that I admire a lot, he played tennis and he played soccer. Two of the things that back in the day, you're talking about in the 80s, that a lot of us looked at like, there ain't no black folks playing that. Well, do the contrary belief. My brother played and he played very well. So don't ever let somebody tell you or look at you like you're not supposed to be in those spaces. I consider my brother a groundbreaker when it came to those things. Shout out to my brother TC. Now, let's transition here because I know a lot of y'all don't watch this, but I do. And I'm a big fan. A lot of y'all have these different feelings about it, but the WNBA, let me tell you something. If you haven't been watching the WNBA, you're missing. Oh, you're missing. These girls are balling this year. Excuse me. These ladies are balling this year. So the finals are set. The Connecticut Sun and the Las Vegas Aces, my adopted hometown, Las Vegas Aces, are in the final. I will be at game 1 tomorrow. Look for me on TV when they scan the crowd. And let me tell you something. As much as people don't want to talk about the WNBA, the stadiums, the arenas be packed with people supporting the WNBA. They may not be making the money they should make, but the arenas be packed with fans. So tune in. The Connecticut Suns, Las Vegas Aces. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. I'm looking for the Aces to bring a championship home. And for everybody that knows me, is probably looking at me like, wait a minute. We ain't never known him to have a team. Football, basketball, baseball, anything like that. But I've grown to be at a point in my life where I have an allegiance to the Las Vegas Aces because I was here when they first came. And I appreciate the fact that Asia Wilson, who was, number 1 draft pick out of South Carolina, is there. You got Chelsea Gray is there. I watch their games. I watch all games, WNBA. These girls are balling. Ladies are balling. Excuse me. I keep calling her because these ladies are balling. And then Connecticut Sun is not a pushover either. So if you haven't been watching, tune in tomorrow. I know NFL's on. Y'all going to be watching NFL. We'll flip back and forth. Game starts at noon here, 3 o'clock Eastern. Catch it between the two football games if you got to. But WNBA, baby, if you missed it, you're missing it because they doing their thing. Let's doing the thing. Let's get into this. Let's get into this unscripted today. I'm gonna start this off with a quote. With a quote I found that you've probably heard before, but it goes into what I'm going to talk about, what we've been talking about for the last probably 4, 5, 6 years. 4, 5, 6 years. And that was the election of 2016. 2016 is when former President Trump was elected. Michelle Long, good morning. Appreciate your support. So he's elected in 2016. And since 2016, and even before 2016, before he was elected, this plays a part in everything that we know up to this point. And here's the quote. If you tell a big enough lie and tell it frequently enough, it will be believed. If you tell a big enough lie and tell it frequently enough, it will be believed. And that quote is by no other than Adolf Hitler. So when I seen this morning, it really made me, it took me back because, I look for quotes and different things like that. But when I seen this quote, I was like, wait a minute. See, there's a certain playbook that people like to use, but they won't put the name on it or who they're using it from. You will never hear Donald Trump or his people that follow him or anything give credit to Adolf Hitler for the way things have gone back in 2015, leading in 2016, up to the election and everything like that, because they don't want you to know that this playbook was used previously by Adolf Hitler. They'll never tell you that. And I'm not saying, let's clear this up. I'm not saying that he truly, truly used this playbook, but I am saying that he truly, truly, probably, allegedly used this playbook. Let's just be real. If you tell a big enough lie and tell it frequently enough, it will be believed. And you have all these people out here, no matter what he says, right, wrong, and different, believe it. They believe what he's saying, right, wrong, and different. So this week, we all know about the documents down in Mar-a-Lago and everything like that, but they had this thing going on where the judge said that they can have a special, a master, I can't remember the name of it now. I'm sorry, y'all. But they wanted somebody to come in and look at all the documents. And they told the DOJ they can't be looking at them no more. They can't look at them anymore. They got to stop their investigation. But they pushed back. They put in a rebuttal to that, to the judge, and saying, wait a minute, if you do that, it's national security is at stake and everything, because they don't think they've gotten all the documents that they were supposed to have. They still think there's documents missing from the documents they have. And if they don't go and inspect these documents, they don't know what's still missing. And then they're saying that there's some nuclear documents that they say are involved in this that show the capabilities of a foreign country, that if they got into the hands of someone else of a foreign country, could cause some issues. See, all these things that we talk about, these secret documents, classified documents, top secret documents, and everything, they have consequences depending on whose hands they fall into. But this week, last night to be exact, they made a statement about the two sides have clashed about who's going to be, overseeing this, and they put names up, and the one thing that they didn't do that I read here, the one thing that they didn't do is they keep saying that Donald Trump did a mass declassification of all those documents. He put his hand over top of them and say, I certify all these declassified. You know how they used to do, I knight you, all that kind of stuff. Supposedly he put his hand over all the documents, said, I declassify all these documents. But they have no documentation. They have no process of what he was supposed to go through, none of that kind of stuff. But then when his people are arguing about the DOJ saying that they still need access to these documents because they don't know how many documents are missing and everything, never once did Donald Trump's lawyers push back and say, or any time in here have they said that this case should be thrown out, should not even be a case because Donald Trump declassified these documents. Never once have these lawyers said that. And the reason why, by this person says, National Security Attorney Bradley Marsh wrote, with yet another court filing, it is increasingly clear that there is no evidence of Trump's alleged standing declassification order and no evidence that these particular classified records were ever declassified. And then someone mentioned and said, gosh, I wonder why President Trump's side did not claim he declassified all the documents and instead just said the line, because they do not want to be caught in a false statement to a court. This is why they're not saying that he declassified all those documents, because they don't want to get caught up in perjury. Let's just be honest about it, because they know, as well as you know, as well as his followers know, and he knows, he never declassified those documents. He never went through the process to declassify those documents. That's why in a court of law, they're not saying anything along the lines of why they shouldn't be looking at this case because he declassified the documents and it doesn't matter, because he didn't. And once they say that, and it's proven that they didn't, the lawyers who are defending him will be perjured. See, these are the things you got to pay attention to. I don't report these things. I don't dig in deep to say, oh, they didn't say this. I've researched this and I've seen this. And it jumped out at me because here's the thing. One of the big things everybody keeps saying in his defense is he declassified these documents. They weren't classified anymore. He downgraded them. As I mentioned before in here, there's a process you have to go through to do that. He didn't do that. They said he stood over all the boxes and waved his hand over the top and said something to the effect that I've declassified all these. No, he didn't. And the reason you know he didn't is because his lawyers have never brought that up in any of their cases that they're arguing right now to say that he had those documents rightly. Never once have they said that they don't belong to the government anymore because he declassified it. Never. And until you hear one of them say that, which you won't, but until you hear one of them say that, that means they have a case. It's just cut and dry. He took documents that were not his. We can go down that road and beat it up over and over and over again. Good morning, Brian Hoodie. Appreciate his support. I'm just saying, if his lawyers aren't speaking on it, if his lawyers aren't speaking on it, he didn't do it. Also, as I mentioned, they're saying that there's more classified documents may be missing in the Trump probe. According to the Justice Department court filing asking U.S. District Court Judge Eileen Cannon, that's her name, a Trump appointee in Florida, to let investigators continue reviewing about 100 classified records seized at Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence and warned that any missing documents could pose a national security threat. Judge Cannon temporarily barred prosecutors from examining the seized records, and on Friday, the DOJ and Trump's lawyers were set to jointly file a list ordered by the judge of possible candidates to serve as a special master. That's the word I was looking for, special master, to review the seized materials. But I'll say again, never once have they said out of their mouths that he declassified those records in the court of law. They said it in news and interviews. People have said it in interviews. People have said it. The pundits have said it, all these different things. But none of these lawyers have said it in the courtroom under oath that he declassified those documents. Let's just be honest about it. So we're going to leave that alone. There's more to come on that. The January 6th investigation is still going on. So we'll find out more about that. But let me bring this up here. Not too long ago, I mentioned that retired General Lloyd Austin wanted to do a full canvass of all military members to find out about extremism in the military. And there was an uproar by Republicans and some civilians and people like that said, no, we shouldn't do that. There's no problem. There's no extremism, blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. Well, Extremists Unmasked Project exposes oath keepers hidden in plain sight. An anti-defamation league project has exposed people who registered as members of the violent paramilitary group and their public-facing professions. Now, when they did this investigation, they went through the military and they asked questions. They found that some people were, had those extreme views. Some were attached to, Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, 3%ers, all these different organizations you can think about that they talk about with these extreme views and racist views. Let's just be honest. But the ADL, American Defamation League, Anti-Defamation League, sifted through more than 38,000 names to find hundreds of people who registered as Oath Keepers who worked in public-facing roles across the country. We're talking law enforcement officers, first responders, military personnel, even government officials, all of whom saw it fit to connect themselves to an extremist paramilitary organization. Now, all these people that I just named, these professions, law enforcement, firefighters, politicians, military members, all these people knew before they signed up to join this organization that what it was about. It was a paramilitary group, extremist paramilitary group, but they still decided to join, sign up, be a member, however they do. And now what they're finding out is the ADL noted that some people may have joined the Oath Keepers because they were sold a watered down version of the group. And some may have disavowed the group since signing up. True, some may have stepped away because after they found out what they're all about, after the fact of what they told them in the beginning may be different, understandable. But if you didn't do your research and you just joined as a military member or a politician and all this kind of stuff, where are you now disavowing them, knowing what you signed up for wasn't what you thought you were signed up for? But the ADL doesn't excuse these people either, adding that it's also important to remember that the Oath Keepers have espoused extremism since their founding. And this fact was not enough to deter these individuals from signing up. So basically what the ADL is saying is that, they may have disavowed themselves after they found out to the full extent what they were trying to do. But it was already established what the Oath Keepers was about before they signed up, at the day they signed up, when they were first formed. But they still chose to sign up. See, these are the things you got to look at. You can't come back later on and say, "Oh, I didn't know." Well, you knew what they were about before you signed up. What you did was, when you found out what they were trying to do, January 6th, and the different things leading up to that, you were like, "Whoa, let me distance myself now." Because I guarantee, if you go back and look, most of them people disavowed themselves from that by, losing the membership or whatever they had to do after the fact. After the fact. John Chaney. And they get mad if we request a black doctor, black teacher, etc. This is disturbing. It's very disturbing, my brother. Very disturbing. Because if you think about it, think about what I said. Let me go back again. Law enforcement, cops, marshals, state police, Department of Justice, FBI. They're all law enforcement. You can't separate the two. First responders, fire department, Department of Homeland Security, first responders, military personnel, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, government officials, government officials. Didn't say whether Republican, Democrat, or government officials. Let's just be real. It doesn't separate you because you're Democrat or Republican, whether you decide to join the Oath Keepers or any of these other organizations. What it does is it exposes the fact of what your true thoughts are, whether you're an elected official or not. So you're talking about congressmen, senators, state legislatures, district attorneys, attorney generals. Do I need to go on? This is very disturbing, as John Chaney said. And here's the key takeaways that they took from this report, where they got all these names. More than 600 people on the list were found to work as elected officials, law enforcement officers, military members, or first responders. Out of 38,000 names, 600 people on the list were found to be elected officials, law enforcement officers, military members, or first responders. With 3,301 registrations, Texas was home to more Oath Keeper signups than any other state. 3,300 people in Texas signed up to be Oath Keepers. New York was the state with the most law enforcement officers who registered as Oath Keepers, with a number of 45. So 45 law enforcement officers in the state of New York signed up to be Oath Keepers. It's the most of any state. Illinois was the state with the most first responders who registered as Oath Keepers, with 15. And Virginia, with 15, had the most members of the armed forces who registered as Oath Keepers. Back in April, this is what I was talking about. Back in April, I reported on the House Veterans Affairs Committee hearing that spoke to this exact problem. Extremist groups seeking out service members. In his opening remarks, the committee chair, Representative Mark Takano, Democrat, California, explained, having veterans among their ranks also gives these groups on an air of credibility. It allows them to project a false appearance of patriotism and duty that belies their true anti-government views and racial, ethnic, and religious hatred. It goes on to say, it also identified more than 80 people who were running for or served in public office as of early August. It also identified more than 80 people who were running for or served in public office as of early August of this year. The membership information was compiled into a database published by the Transparency Collective Distributed Denial of Secrets. There's no extremism in this country. There's no threat to our government as we know it. This is what they say. I'm just repeating it in a condescending way. It also says the data raises fresh concerns about the presence of extremists in law enforcement and the military, who are tasked with enforcing laws and protecting the U.S. It's especially problematic for public servants to be associated with extremists at a time when lies about the 2020 election are fueling threats of violence against lawmakers and institutions. Then it goes on to say, as I mentioned before, even for those who claim to have left the organization when it began to employ more aggressive tactics in 2014, It is important to remember that the Oath Keepers have espoused extremism since their founding, and this fact was not enough to deter these individuals from signing up. But there's no extremism, there's no racism, there's no plots to overthrow the government. You have people that you may sit beside each and every day that you go to work, each and every day that you pull into your garage, each and every day that you go out to eat. And amongst them, there could be people who have this mentality on this United States soil. People that I've served in the military with could have been and had those views as early as I was in the military from 1984 to 2006. Now, I'm not saying that everyone has these views, but there are pockets of these people in this country, and it's grown to the point of what we seen on January 6th. Because in spite of the fact that where people don't want to understand this, let me break it down in simple terms. You don't have to be a part or a true participant in any of those paramilitary groups, extremism, paramilitary groups that I mentioned, Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, whoever, all of them. You don't have to be a member of the organization. However, if you follow what they do, January 6th, and decide to try to overthrow the government or stop a vote or a process from happening in this democratic process, January 6th, you may not be a reigning member, you may not be a card-carrying member, but you are just as guilty as those who signed the paper to say, I'm a member. It's just that simple. It's that simple. You can't continue to go around here with your head in the sand acting like these things ain't going on. And then when someone like me, who don't have the platform of a CNN, a Fox News, or any of those type of things, brings it to the forefront and starts talking about it because some of them won't. Don't look at me as the bad guy. I don't write the report. I voice the report. People get into that when you report on racism, extremism, they call you a racist, race beta, and all these type of things. Call me what you want. The facts speak for themselves. But you have people who want to distance themselves so far from anything like this happening that they're in denial, because denial is not a river anymore. You get that? Denial is not just a river. Denial is not just a river anymore. See, people want to get caught up in this fact of, if we don't talk about it, it goes away. No. That's why it's where it's at now, because nobody wanted to talk about it. Nobody wanted to report it. Nobody wanted to investigate these things. As I mentioned on this show many times, and you'll continue hearing me say it, because these things are things that need to be said. The Ku Klux Klan has been around since ever. And to this day in 2022, you have never heard anybody or seen anything done to eliminate it. The Ku Klux Klan is an organization that has never been tapped into the point of them trying to eliminate it. What they do is they branch off. Oath Keepers, Proud Boys. They break off in their little sects. They're sexed, not sex. Sexed. Sex, S-E-C-T-S. You know what I'm saying? Of what they want to do and what extremism they want to go after. It's all inclusive. And as these people in the Department of Justice and everybody says, they say the biggest threat to democracy in the United States of America is on this soil right now. It has nothing to do with nobody coming from overseas. It has to do with right here on this land. These people that we're talking about right now, that the Anti-Defamation League found. Edward Allen, skinheads. Oh, forgot about them. My fault, man. Skinheads too. Skinheads too. But we got to get to the point where we recognize these things. And as I always say on here, you're an ally or you're a lie. Because if you know skinheads, if you know people who are in the Oath Keepers, KKK members or anything, and you choose not to push back against them, but and you stand on the fact that you got black friends or Hispanic friends or people, brown getting tone friends or whatever you want to call it, because all y'all got different names for who your friends are, how you label them, and how you recognize them. Let's just be real. You're a lie, not an ally. You're a lie, not an ally. Case in point, a former soldier who was federally charged with lying in his application for security clearance said he enlisted in the Army so he'd be, watch this now, more proficient in killing black people. Prosecutors allege. Let me say that one more time. A former soldier who was federally charged with lying in his application for security clearance said he enlisted in the Army so he'd be more proficient in killing black people. Prosecutors allege. Killian M. Ryan, who was stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, held the rank of specialist and served in the Army until August 26. A spokesperson with the Airborne Corps said in a statement Thursday. Ryan was separated from the Army for serious misconduct. An affidavit filed August 25th in U.S. District Court for Eastern North Carolina alleges that Ryan had online ties to people whose social media accounts were associated with racially motivated extremism. The affidavit written by a Fayetteville police officer on the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force also alleges that Ryan posted his motivation for joining the Army on an Instagram account. This is what he said now. I serve for combat experience, so I'm more proficient in killing N-words. Y'all know I don't say that word, N-word. He is alleged to have said. Ryan also had 5 Instagram accounts in which he communicated with extremists who were motivated by racial animus, the affidavit said. The U.S. Army does not tolerate racism, extremism, or hatred in our ranks. The Army prohibits military personnel from participating in extremist organizations and activities. There is no place for extremism in the Army. This is one who specifically said on his Instagram account that he joined the Army so he could serve for combat experience, so he becomes proficient in killing N-words. But there's no extremism in the ranks. There's no extremism in law enforcement, politics, any of those type things. There's none of that going on. But you have this one example here. And they'll say, oh, that's just one. You can't base everything off one. No, he's the one that got caught. He's the one that got caught. I don't take this lightly, as y'all can probably tell. I don't take it lightly because the threat is real. Let's just be honest here. The threat is real. We have children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, all you can think about, family members, friends, anybody you can think of that are traveling in these spaces on a consistent and daily basis. And the same people that are in these spaces that they're supposed to trust. Let me use that word, trust, to protect and to serve. You know, I swear to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, so on and so forth. These are the people we're interacting with all the time, each and every day, that take this oath, these oaths of office, these oaths of what they're supposed to do, understanding that they're supposed to serve and protect, defend, whatever they're supposed to do for this United States of America by the Constitution. However, you have those with these extremist views that are implanted in here, that people want to act like they're not there, that they don't exist, that it's not that serious. Slave patrols, let's give a little history lesson here. Just on the surface. Slave patrols were strictly there just to keep slaves in check. Slave patrols were not there to just monitor the slave. Slave patrols were there to catch slaves if they ever escaped or attempted to escape. Law enforcement as we know it was built off of slave patrols. Now, I'm not saying the correlation is there to say that law enforcement is slaves. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm telling you is to protect and to serve. If you use that, you take that, what they say, and they got on their police cars and everything now, and take that back to when they had the slave patrols, who were they to protect and to serve? They were there to protect and to serve the basics of the monetary value of the plantation owner. They were not there to protect and serve the slaves. They were there to protect and serve the slaves to stay on that land that they were supposed to be working on as property. Which leads into the next thing when we talk about extremism and how we talk about the justice system and different things like that. And it disheartens me that every time I see these, it's unsettling for my soul. But just this week, we have another African American male at 53 years old, free from prison after 36 years, and he was freed by using the same evidence to free him that they did to convict him. Listen to me now. They use the same evidence that they used to convict him to make him a free man. You say, how is that possible? Let's get into this. His name is Sullivan Walter. He's 53 years old of New Orleans, Louisiana. He was wrongly convicted for a crime he did not commit at 17 years old, making him the fifth. Now, I want you to listen to this right here. Making him the fifth longest incarceration of any juvenile in the United States. He was recently released from prison after 36 years behind bars. Thanks to key evidence his lawyers say was in plain sight from the start. He said, "I'm overwhelmed with joy, but it's also a bittersweet feeling because it took so long," said Walter, who has since been exonerated. Walter has spent all of his adult life incarcerated. His release from Elian Hunt Correctional Center, just south of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, on August 25th, 2022, happened because the Innocence Project New Orleans gave his case a much needed second look. My innocence was clear. I was an innocent man and I had been falsely imprisoned. Let's get into what happened. On May 9th of 1986, a woman was raped after a man broke into her New Orleans home and threatened to harm her and her 8-year-old son with a knife if she did not have sex with him. After the incident, the woman reported the rape to the police. Court records indicate that 4 days after the rape, the woman assisted the police artist in making a composite sketch of the man who raped her. Meanwhile, Mr. Walter, who was 17 years old at the time and already in the crosshairs of police after an arrest for burglary. Listen what they say, already in the crosshairs of the police because of a burglary, became an easy target. It says, this is what he said, "I continued to not cooperate, and as a result of that, I was rebooked, charged with a rape charge, and even then, I didn't think it would be possible for me to be convicted of something I was accused of and had nothing to do with." One of the officers of the New Orleans Police Department saw the composite drawing and said, "Hey, that looked like Sullivan Walter. Let's see if he fits the suspect rape case." And it was an inadvertent misidentification by the victim of rape. A month later, in June of 1986, the woman picked Walter's photo in a suspect lineup and claimed he was her rapist. At trial in December of 1986, the woman stated there was no doubt Walter was the man that raped her. Court records indicate, however, a criminalist expert who testified, watch this, said he tested the semen left behind by the rapist, found it was from a non-secretor. I want you to listen to this real quick. Hold on now. Let's go back a minute. A criminalist expert who testified said that he tested the semen left behind by the rapist and found it was from a non-secretor. A non-secretor meaning the semen did not contain blood type contents, a rare condition considering 80% of men produce blood type contents within their semen, according to court documents. Mr. Walter says, my blood type showed that I was the total opposite. My blood type secreted. The perpetrator of the crime had been identified as someone whose blood type was rare, and he was categorized as a non-secretor. This is key evidence now. Despite this information being known, it was not presented to the jury at the trial. And Mr. Walter was sentenced to 39 years in prison. 35 years for the rape charge and 4 years for the burglary. 35 years of the rape charge, 4 years for the burglary. Mr. Walter said, just being in prison alone and convicted of a rape charge, it's a blemish. It tears you down. It destroys you. The judge, in the most recent case, expressed anger that blood and semen evidence that could have cleared him never made it to the jury. The judge ordered Mr. Walter's conviction be vacated. Mr. Walter said, I'm not angry. I'm not looking for anyone to be punished, but I would like for what is broken to be fixed. So let's get this straight. There was DNA evidence from a rape kit that showed that the person that raped this young lady was not a secretor, as I mentioned. Means there's no blood in the semen or anything like that that they can detect. They tested Mr. Walter, and he was a secretor. This evidence was never presented to the jury by who? Why did the jury never get this evidence? This man spent 35 years in jail, 36 total, but 35 years he was sentenced for a rape charge that he never committed. The evidence was right there. So am I to assume that it was a oversight? Am I to assume that the lawyers or the cops, let's start with the police, who did the investigation, who picked him up just because they thought it looked like him, knew that there was DNA evidence, never got involved with it. The lawyers on both sides knew that there was DNA evidence, never presented it. But this man spent 36 years behind bars, not because he was guilty, not because he was a bad person. Yeah, he did a burglary. We all have some little blemishes in our record. But to charge somebody with rape that he never did, different level. He was simply charged because they had to charge someone, and he was an easy target. When we talk about these cases, and I will continue, as I say, I will continue each time I see these type things, talk about them, because they're glossed over too often. And these are the ones that get reported that I report. The ones that I tell you about are the ones that make the news. What about the people that are walking out that don't make the news? What about the people that are behind bars right now that still are seeking justice? And then we talk about there's no racism in the justice system, and there's no racism in our penal codes, and all these different things we talk about. But I want you to think about something that I've said before, and I'll say it again. Of all the cases that you've ever seen where people have served 30, 20, 30, 40, 50 years in prison and finally came back and were exonerated because the evidence didn't show it was them or somebody lied or anything like that. When is the last time you seen somebody be exonerated after serving all that time that was not a person of color? I'll wait. When is the last time you heard anybody who is exonerated after a long sentence serving the time, there was a non-person of color being released because the evidence didn't fit the crime? I'll wait. Still waiting. You got two Nevers. You got a railroad. Kevin Banks, get more to my brother. See, this is why I get passionate about this. I could be one of these people. You could be one of these people. For the simple fact of they see you and you're an easy person to put into the system, who will never get the benefit of the doubt just because of how you look, just because of where you live, or just because of the fact you may have had some hiccups in your background that they can correlate to the crime they're trying to prosecute somebody for right now. I can't, in my wildest imagination, fathom going to jail at 17 years old. Not only going to jail, prison at 17 years old for something I did not do, was not a part of. And the whole time, I'm screaming from the rooftops that I did not do this. And no one hears me. You know those dreams you have? I'm gonna digress a little bit. You know those dreams you have where someone's chasing you, or you're running from something, you don't know what you're running from, and you're trying to yell out and nothing's coming out. Your mouth is open, you're yelling, and nothing's coming out. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that's ever had that dream. That's what I envision when I see and hear these stories about these people who are just thrown away like they mean nothing to anybody because somebody feels they need to prosecute somebody. Right, wrong, or indifferent. But the caveat of that, watch this now. The caveat of that is we see this man serve 36 years in prison, and then you have to ask, what kind of legal counsel did they give him to allow no evidence against him to be presented and him still serve time? But then you look at what's going on today, and I'll take it to the top of the rung, top of the ladder. You have a former president who is being prosecuted and accused of all these different crimes. But because he has money and the means to hire lawyers to throw up these legal roadblocks over and over and over again to keep kicking the can down the road so he doesn't get prosecuted. And at the time when he feels that he's kicked the can long enough that it's not in anybody's mind, it's not in anybody's vision, and nobody's thinking about it, he settles. He settles a case monetarily to avoid being prosecuted criminally. Think about that for a minute. And then ask yourself why people sit back and say there's nothing wrong with the justice system. No, there's nothing wrong with the justice system. What's wrong is the people that run the justice system. What's wrong is the people who have the monetary value to roadblock the way the system is supposed to work. And those that don't have the money to roadblock or to be able to defend themselves the right way get sent to jail for 36 years for a crime they did not commit. Call it what you want. Easy E, good morning, my brother. Appreciate you. Call it what you want. Miko Soul King, good morning, good morning. Call it what you want. But I call it injustice. Not only because of the system, but because of the people embedded in the system. Extremism. And this is going back to 1986 when he was charged. We're in 2022. I just seen a report yesterday, late last night. I didn't get to write it down, but I just pulled up, seen something last night when I was perusing. That said Aretha Franklin, the great queen of soul, Aretha Franklin, was being surveilled by the FBI because of her activism for equal rights. The queen of soul, Aretha Franklin, who they all say they love her music, they love what she stood for and everything, was being investigated and surveyed by the FBI for many years because of her involvement in the equal rights movement. Let that marinate for a minute. No one is exempt from this. I don't care how well you sing. I don't care how high you jump. I don't care how fast you run. Nobody, as much as they may praise you for your athletic ability, as much as they may praise you for how high you hit a note, nobody is exempt. No one. No one. And that's why I get so upset about this. That's why I get so disheartened when I see these things, because it's like a cycle. It's like a cycle. And then you have to ask yourself, as I reported not a couple of weeks ago when we talked about the young kids that were being put in prison, taken out of juvenile system, put in prison for profit. For profit. James Battle, J. Edgar Hoover was a crook. Would have been loved by the Trump administration. Boy, I tell you. I just, y'all forgive me. No, I'm not going to ask for forgiveness for this. I'm passionate about this. I mean this when I talk about this. Let's go on transition. Let's get into this. Mind, body, and soul. Mind, body, and soul. Year 2022, 1,440 minutes per day. That's in a 24-hour period. You got 24-hour period. You get 1,440 minutes. We're using them as moments. Enjoy each and every moment that is bestowed upon you when you wake up every morning. You know, I had this conversation. I'm gonna digress a little bit. I had this conversation with somebody the other day, and I said, you know, there's a lost art. There's a lost art in the fact that each morning when we wake up, when we first open our eyes, that we look up to the skies and thank God for another day. Now we open our eyes, reach for our phone, and go to social media. Be cognizant of that. We go to social media before we go to the higher power. Just want to put that out there. Mind, body, and soul. Let's get into this. No one has ever become poor by giving. No one has ever become poor by giving. You know, we when we talk about giving, everyone's mind, when you say giving, the first thing they think about is monetarily. Monetarily, we all may not be where we want to be. Financially, you know, at that pinnacle where we don't have to worry about bills, or we're bill-free, debt-free. We all may not be there. Some will, some won't. But whenever we talk about giving, everyone concentrates on the monetary. when we see people on the street or somebody decides they want to buy somebody some food because they look like they may be homeless or they may need something or some water, or somebody may come up to you and say, "Hey man, I just need a beer, bro." And those are the guys that you appreciate because they tell you what they're gonna do with the money. They ain't gonna lie to you, man. I just need a beer. Well, let me get you a beer. A lot of people will look down at that and say, "Man, you buying that man a beer? He need more than a beer. He asked me for a beer. Should I not give him what he asked for?" But I digress. Let me get back. No one has ever become poor by giving. See, we always look at the monetary part of that. And whatever you can give, you choose to give. You're only going to give what you can afford to give. If somebody asks you to borrow some money in your family or somebody outside, most of us, our mindset doesn't say it, but we know. If somebody asks you for $500, you ain't got but $600, you're not going to give them five. You might be able to give them two because we're thinking about the long term one. I got to take care of me. But let's flip that a little bit. When we talk about giving, take it away from the monetary and look at the giving of yourself, volunteering, pouring into other folks, pouring into children, pouring into kids, mentoring, doing the things that someone did for you, whether it's coaching or just being present in the moment. See, sometimes we get so caught up in everything going on around us, we forget about the impact of what we can have on those young folks who we see in passing, those young folks who look up to us. I remember when I was young, we used to look up to the people in the neighborhood. A lot of us looked at people who were athletic. We looked up to them because we wanted to be athletic. But a lot of us never looked up to, and I'm going to say this, we didn't look up to the guys working in the school who were buffing the floors or cleaning up the gymnasium and all those type things. But what we didn't realize, we may not have looked up to them because of the job they were doing, just as an example. Nothing against it. But we didn't look up to those guys as far as what their job was. We looked up to them for the knowledge that they bestowed upon us when they spoke to us. See, this is where sometimes we get caught up in the position of where people sit, of the position of what people do, rather than looking at the impact of what they may say or what grace they show you. See, as someone said before, treat the janitor the same way you would treat the CEO. That way I know exactly where you stand. If you can't treat the janitor the same way you treat that CEO in a building, that tells me what you're all about. And it's the same thing as the giving. Everyone is not able to monetarily give, but everyone is able to give time. Everyone is able to give a word of encouragement. Everyone is able to give some sense of keep on pushing. Don't do that. Let me help you out a little bit. Let me put something in your mind. It's those little things about giving. Eliminate the monetary. Eliminate that from your mindset. Everyone does not and cannot be capable of monetarily giving to everyone. Sometimes it's not the money, it's the time. Time is what the biggest thing is. John Chaney, we didn't understand it at the time. If we get our youth to embrace that thinking sooner, we win. Exactly. And that's why I'm putting it out there, bro. I appreciate you leading into what I was going to say. Where we sit now and at the age we're at, as I mentioned before, I didn't understand the impact that a Ed Bradley and a Bernard Shaw had on me when I used to sit and watch them on TV. I didn't understand it until I started doing it. Never once in my mind did I think I would be doing something similar to what they do. But I always admired them for some reason. It was maybe something in me that God said, keep an eye on them. You may not be as big, but you're going to have an impact. That's what we need to look at. Who are we impacting? Who are we giving time to? Who are we giving to as a whole? Because we get so caught up sometimes in the hustle and bustle and what we got to do and everything. 1 minute of your time, 1 moment in time can change that 17 or 18-year-old young man or young lady's mindset from where they think they stand to having a vision of they can ascend to the highest levels of whatever they want to become. Don't always think that if you give somebody $5 that cures all the problems. If you can loan somebody $200 that solves all the problems. Giving is from the heart, not from the wallet. Give your time, give your experiences, and don't just stop there. Follow up. That's one thing we don't do is follow up. We may talk to a young man or a young lady knowing they're going through some things and talk to them that day because of what they're going through. And the next time we talk to them, it's probably when they're in the middle of something that they can't get out of. But if we'd have took the time to find a little bit more time after that first conversation to have a second conversation and a third conversation and a fourth conversation and a fifth conversation, that could change the trajectory of where they're heading to where they need to go. These are the things that I think we need to start doing. This is something that I'm passionate about as well, as far as mentoring, because here's where I had to catch myself, and I'll put it out there like this. I always had this mentality that I had to be involved in some type of mentoring organization in order to mentor. Watch where I'm going now. You don't have to be a part of anything to be something. It doesn't take for you to be a part of, and I don't want to call them organizations out, but it's just give you an example, the 100 Black Men of Las Vegas, which they have them all over the United States of America. You don't have to be a part of the mentor organizations in your community. You don't have to be a part of that. It's good, but you don't have to be a part of those organizations to be a mentor. You can sit down with the kids that you frequent with, that deal with your kids, that deal with your grandkids, the young kids that are coming into the workplace that you see every day, and pull them aside and just have conversation. And it doesn't have to be formal. It can just be a normal, how you doing? Conversation. What's your goals? Getting into who they are and what they want to be. And then that's when you inject your experiences, your faults, the things you may have done wrong, the things that you don't want to see them do without actually saying it that way. You can mentor anybody without having to be a part of an organization that says the title of mentor. I had to change my mentality from that, to understand that each and every time you take the time to talk to somebody and pour into them something that was poured into you, you're already mentoring who you need to mentor. Not by chance, by choice. Not by chance, but by choice. It's been some battle. Mr. Collins, I know what you're talking. It's not easy when all you can do and still get stomped on. Yeah, we get stomped. But see, here's the thing. And I'm glad you bring that up, Mr. Battle. Hey, appreciate you tuning in too, my brother. We all going to get kicked at some time. Let's just be real about this. We all are going to be stomped on, kicked on, beat down, talked about, all that kind of stuff. But the question I will ask you, Mr. Battle, just because they're talking about you, and it may affect you, should it affect the impact you can have on somebody else? See, we shouldn't let the impacts that we have that have affected us impact everybody else below us. We need to take that, harbor it for ourselves, and use it as a learning experience to mentor and teach these young folks. Just because somebody don't like you, just because somebody has kicked you when you're down, you don't have to retaliate. Gravitate. Go to the next level. Keep pushing. Keep doing what you know is right, to keep on the focus and the mission on where you're trying to get to, in spite of all the obstacles that you're going to come across. That's life. That's life. Because I guarantee, Trent Branch, appreciate you, bro. I guarantee if we all sit back and think about anybody that has ever done anything wrong to us and we held on to that, it would have stunted our growth to not becoming who we are now. Obstacles are obstacles. Obstacles are obstacles. Just think about when you was running track back in school and you had them hurdles in front of you. If you knocked one hurdle over, you ain't just stopped the race. You kept going. Hell, I ran a race one time, not be transparent, I knocked over every hurdle. But I finished the race. That's the key. I finished the race. John Chaney, amen. Exactly. Once you do What you're ordained to do is out of your hands. Amen, my brother. Amen. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Let's go ahead and get up out of here this day. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for making this, enjoyable for me to do. As I say, we're coming up on 10 years. September 24th is the anniversary show. I'm going to post the information for OT for be able to get in contact with him. If you want to come on the show that day, how you can get on the show, whether it's a call, whether you want to send a voicemail in. I'm going to leave all that up to OT. I'm not going to be involved in it. This is going to be something that I'm just going to be blindsided. And if I get emotional that day, let me get emotional because, it's been 10 years in the making. I appreciate the support and I love y'all. And I'm going to keep doing what I do. As I always say before I sign off. Before I say that, these elections are around the corner. We're in September. We're almost in the middle of September. Elections are November 3rd. Midterm elections. As I mentioned, you got some extremists that are running for office. Know who they are. Know who you're voting for. Whether Republican or Democrat, know who you're voting for. And be comfortable with the vote that you cast. See, sometimes we just cast. No. Be comfortable with the vote you cast and make sure that the vote you're casting is going to make a difference. Make sure it's going to make a difference in who you vote for. Get people out, talk about it to these young kids who are eligible to vote now, who may not know anything about it. Start talking to them. That's where that mentoring comes in. Without mentoring, it's just the fact of giving them the facts and getting them to understand how important it is to vote, because what we know to be true is a lot of us never understood the fact of how important it was. Not that our parents didn't know, but at the time when we were young and our parents were able to go vote, they didn't understand the impact of the vote. Just put it that way. They didn't understand the impact of the vote. So if you don't understand the impact of the vote, how can you pass it on to your children so they truly understand? Nothing against our family. Hey, our family did the best they could with what they had. Let's just be honest. There's nothing against them. But if you remember, the Voting Rights Act was still being fought back in the 60s. I was born in 66. Let that marinate. Love yourself. Love one another. Keep your head up. And most definitely keep your faith in God. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. And I'll holler at y'all next week. And I'm out. Peace.